The starship Wayfarer's grasp drifted above the scorched desert moon of Sarathis 4, its orbit unstable due to a miscalculation during the jump sequence. The ship's backup thrusters fired in short bursts, keeping it from falling into the planet's gravity well. The crew was trapped, waiting for rescue from the nearest Union fleet, a wait expected to last a week. But something else stirred below. Commander Elias Crane stood at the observation deck, watching the storm winds whip the planet's surface. The sand danced like angry spirits, and the pale blue lightning arcs etched jagged wounds across the sky. He hated this place, and yet something about it reminded him of Earth. Behind him, the soft chime of the door opened. "Commander," said a gentle, lilting voice. "We have a situation." Bay 12. Elias turned. It was Dr. Nyala Taith, the ship's xenoanthropsychologist. Though everyone just called her Document, she was not human. Her species, the Lari, were infamous in the Union for their beauty, their intellect, and their emotional barriers. She was tall, willowy, with silver skin that shimmered like starlight under fluorescent lighting, and violet eyes that never betrayed what she felt. "What kind of situation?" Elias asked. She hesitated. "A survivor. From Sarathis 4. Alien, possibly female. She's injured, possibly in shock. We brought her aboard, but she is asking for you. Specifically. For me." Nyala nodded. "And she is emotionally unstable." She's repeating a phrase. "3 of you one night. Why must I endure this pain?" Maybe ritualistic. Or trauma-based. In Bay 12, the alien sat on a medical table, knees drawn to her chest. Her skin was mottled with emerald and black scales. Her body humanoid but clearly non-Terran. Her eyes glowed a sickly gold, like twin suns on the edge of collapse. She looked up the moment Elias stepped into the room. "You," she whispered. He stiffened. "Have we met?" "I do not know," she said. "Perhaps in another life. Or perhaps only in dreams. But your face, your voice, it is the same." Elias glanced at Nyala, who nodded subtly. "Humor her," the look said. "My name is Commander Elias Crane. You're safe now. Can you tell us your name?" She blinked. Her gaze flicked to the observation mirror behind them, then back. "I am called Yura-Kelai. I am the last daughter of the Varan Temple. We were meant to be many. But now there is only me." "Yura-Kelai," Elias repeated gently. "You mentioned something strange. About 3 of us one night and pain. What did you mean?" He shivered. "The trial. You must undergo it." Elias felt something coil in his gut. "What trial?" Yura-Kelai stood. Her posture changed, no longer broken but regal, like a priestess stepping into the light. "There were 3 of you. There must always be 3. Human of flame, a human of water, a human of stone. All must enter, all must face me, or I will die." "She's delirious," Nyala whispered, stepping closer. But Elias wasn't so sure. "What happens if we do it?" Yura-Kelai stepped forward, placing a clawed hand on his chest. Her eyes blazed. "Then I will be whole. The pain will end. And I will remember everything." Elias convened an emergency meeting. "We should not entertain this," said Lieutenant Ramos, the ship's security chief. "This sounds like a trap." "She was left behind," said Nyala sharply. "The Varan people vanished a decade ago, wiped out by orbital bombardment during the Keth Wars. She's not a threat. She's a relic. And relics sometimes explode," Ramos muttered. "She mentioned 3 humans," Elias said. "One of fire, one of water, one of stone. It's symbolic, probably psychological. If it helps her. and helps us learn about the Varan, we should consider it. Who would volunteer? Someone asked. Elias looked around. I will. That makes one. To his surprise, Niala stepped forward. I will accompany. For observation. That's two. Ramos groaned and raised a hand. Fine. I'll be the third. But if I get mind melded, I'm blaming you, Commander. The ritual chamber was not on the ship. It was within Yura-Kelai herself. Her people had once been advanced biotechnologists. Her body housed what could only be described as a living temple, folded into dimensional layers within her DNA, activated through symbiotic resonance. Once Elias, Ramos, and Niala touched her bare skin in unison, reality twisted. They found themselves in a place between dimensions, a hall of floating light, memory threads dangling like silk ribbons from a pulsing fleshy core. Yura-Kelai stood at the center, now fully transformed. Her ceremonial robes were made of living silkworms that shifted with her breath. Her pain, once a mystery, was visible in the pulsing of her exposed second heart. You are the three, she said. This is the night. The trial of flame came first. Ramos stood alone in a burning garden, a twisted dream of fire and bone. Screams echoed in the distance. The flames whispered truths he'd buried. His failures, his guilt, the child he'd lost during the evacuation of Gala 9. Yura-Kelai appeared beside him, bathed in firelight. Why must I endure this pain? She asked him. Because it never ends, he said bitterly. No, she whispered. Because you never let it go. The fire surged, and then extinguished. The trial of water took Niala. She floated in an endless ocean, her breath stolen by currents of doubt. She saw herself in mirrors of ice, alien, distant, alone even among the humans who called her friend. Her people were gone, her culture forgotten. Why must I endure this pain? Yura-Kelai asked again. Niala choked on salt water. Because you think you must. No, Yura said. Because you fear being without it. Tears joined the water. The ocean calmed. Elias faced the trial of stone. He stood before a mountain of corpses. Soldiers, civilians, old enemies, old friends. Each face bore the same expression, betrayal. The weight on his shoulders grew heavier with each step. Yura-Kelai emerged, her eyes wet. Why must I endure this pain? Elias sank to his knees. Because some of us don't deserve to forget. No, she said gently. Because you confuse pain with purpose. He looked up. What happens when we let it go? She smiled, and her skin cracked like old stone. From within, light spilled out. You begin. The three trials merged. They returned to the chamber of flesh and light. Yura-Kelai collapsed, her body convulsing. The ship's systems flared red. Her vitals are crashing. Niala shouted. This wasn't a test. It was a transfer. Transfer of what? Elias demanded. Pain, said Yura-Kelai, barely conscious. Your species is so strange. You feel, and then you keep it. You keep everything. But now, understand. The trial was to make me whole. Not erase my pain but share it. So I would not bear it alone. They stood in silence. The pain didn't vanish, but it was no longer unbearable. In the void, three humans had stepped into her suffering, and returned changed. Days passed. Yura-Kelai recovered slowly, but with clarity. The last survivor of the Varan temple was no longer alone in her memories. She spoke of her people, their rise, their fall, their arrogance, their belief that emotion was weakness, until the gods punished them with a weapon they could not destroy. Empathy. It is not weakness, she told Elias quietly one evening. It is the forge in which strength is made. He nodded. And pain. She smiled faintly. Pain is the door through which understanding walks. When the rescue fleet arrived, they offered to take Yura-Kelai to the Union's xenocultural preservation program. She refused. I would stay, she said. Among those who understand that sorrow is not to be buried, but shared. Elias glanced at Niala and Ramos. The trials had changed all of them. For the better. You're welcome on this ship, Elias said. As long as you like. Yura-Kelai bowed her head. Then I will stay. And perhaps, I will no longer need to ask why I endure this pain. As the Wayfarer's grasp resumed its course across the stars, the crew carried on with their routines. But something subtle had changed. Word of the trial spread slowly, whispered from one deck to another. Not the details, those remained locked in silence, but the weight of it and the way Commander Crane, Niala, and Ramos moved afterward. Lighter, steadier, as if they'd offloaded something invisible. Yura-Kelai walked the corridors now, not as a passenger, but as part of the crew. She spent most of her time in the Arboretum, growing gardens from seeds she carried deep in her body's genetic vault. Her people had made their memories into biology, encoded trauma and tradition into living tissue. Now, human and Varan shared stories among the roots and leaves of plants that had not touched soil in 10,000 years. One night, Elias found her seated by the koi pond in the Arboretum, watching the fish ripple through the water. She didn't look up when he approached. I've been reading your people's archived symbology, he said. The trial of 3 wasn't meant for just anyone. No, she agreed quietly. It was meant for soul-bearers, those capable of carrying pain and returning with compassion. He nodded. You said the trial made you whole. What did it make us? She turned to face him, her golden eyes soft. Human. They sat together in silence for a long time. Then she whispered, Do you know why I cried out? Why must I endure this pain? Elias shook his head. Because I was taught to endure it in isolation. But in you I saw something I never understood before. You carry your pain. But you also seek others to share it with. To make it mean something. Her hand reached over and gently touched his. That is what made you worthy. From behind them, Niala's voice carried softly across the wind-dancing trees. And that's what makes us stronger. Not because we're fearless, but because we're never truly alone. Ramos grunted from his seat on a nearby bench. Speak for yourselves. I prefer a drink and a nap. They all laughed. And somewhere deep in Yura-Kelai's twin hearts, a new seed bloomed. Not one of pain, but one of hope. She had asked the stars why she must endure suffering. Now, among a flawed, feeling species of flame, water, and stone, she finally had her answer. To find the ones who would not let her suffer alone.